Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Smackdown tonight was from the Bon Secours Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina, while Rampage was live tonight, and it was from the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the reason why AEW Rampage was live tonight is because they taped Battle of the Belts 3, which is going to be airing tomorrow night on TNT. So, not sure if I'm going to be reviewing Battle of the Belts 3, but we'll see. But SmackDown tonight, I thought it was a watchable show, in my opinion. We had on SmackDown tonight Ricochet versus Happy Corbin. We also saw Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ludwig Kaiser. And if Nakamura ended up winning the match, he would get a shot at Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. So pretty much, basically, this was a championship contenders match, but they did not even say it, a championship contenders match. So, but it really was. And then we had a gauntlet match to determine who would face Liv Morgan for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Clash at the Castle. The Viking Raiders were in action and they have taken on Jim Mulkey and Tommy Gibson. And then we saw Kofi Kingston versus Erik. And we also got a returning superstar back in WWE, which I will get to when it was unpredictable. So did not see this coming with this certain someone returning. But it's all thanks to Triple H. But overall, SmackDown was a watchable show tonight. But let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with the Usos and Roman Reigns. They were in the parking lot. The Usos end up exiting out of a car, and same did, Roman Reigns. And the three of them end up heading into the arena. And then we saw Pat McAfee end up calling for a replay of his win over Corbin at SummerSlam and the low blow that McAfee delivered to Corbin. So we saw all that, and they kept replaying it, and I'm like, oh, are we watching football? Because they kept replaying it, and like how on a football replay, they make like lines on the screen of like the play, and they did a big, thing of Corbin, like with the line on it. You know how it is when they show a football replay and they're just putting lines on the screen of where the players are gonna run. It was just them doing that, but Corbin's reaction of him getting low blow by McAfee. So they just played this like 5 times. I'm like, did we really need to have the replay of McAfee low blowing Corbin 5 times or more? That was unnecessary. So then we went backstage and Corbin was watching the replay, and we had some of the roster laughing at Corbin over Corbin losing. So Ricochet was entertained by McAfee low blowing Corbin. Corbin ended up getting upset with Ricochet, and Ricochet challenged Corbin to a match. So Corbin ended up accepting. So we had the first match of the night, which was Ricochet versus Corbin. And this was a okay match here. So yeah, Ricochet ended up coming out to the ring, and then Corbin made his way out. So the match started off with Ricochet and Corbin end up locking up. Corbin sent Ricochet into the corner. Ricochet ended up firing back with an enziguri to Corbin. Ricochet then ended up throwing Corbin out of the ring. He flied over the top rope and took Corbin down. So Corbin ended up getting back into the ring. He delivered a clothesline to Ricochet. So Corbin then delivered several punches to Ricochet's midsection. Both guys were exchanging right hands. Corbin ended up whipping Ricochet into the corner, started beating him down. Ricochet ended up coming back and delivered a stomp to Corbin's back. And so both guys end up spilling to the outside. Corbin ended up managing to send Ricochet into the ring post. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Corbin was in control of the match, and he ended up locking Ricochet in, can you guess it, a chin lock. So Corbin then ended up hitting a massive back body drop on Ricochet, and Ricochet ended up flying high as he landed because of that back body drop. So Corbin ended up going for the cover, and Ricochet kicked out. So the crowd was chanting, "You suck," at Corbin. Ricochet then ended up hitting Corbin with a knee. Ricochet then ended up sending Corbin into the corner and delivered a flying clothesline, which he followed up by a awesome looking standing shooting star press. So Ricochet ended up going for the cover. Corbin kicked out. Ricochet ended up flying off the ropes, and Corbin ended up catching Ricochet, and he delivered a neck breaker. Corbin ended up going for the cover. Ricochet then kicked out. So Corbin ended up getting Ricochet up to deliver a choke slam, but Ricochet ended up countering that, and he hit a Hurricanrana, to which Corbin then ended up hitting deep six on Ricochet, and he ended up going for the cover. Ricochet kicked out. So we saw Corbin and Ricochet, they ended up climbing to the top rope. Corbin ended up choke slamming Ricochet off the top and stood down at Pat McAfee. Ricochet ended up pulling Corbin down onto the rope, and we have Ricochet climbed up to the top. He ended up hitting a shooting star press to Corbin, and Ricochet ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Ricochet ended up winning the match. Post-match, Pat McAfee, he ended up tossing a football to Ricochet. Ricochet ended up throwing the football back at Pat McAfee. McAfee then signed the football. He autographed it. And McAfee ended up punting the football into the crowd. And that was basically that. Overall, the match was okay. Ricochet ended up bringing Corbin to a okay match here, even though Corbin, in my opinion, is just very meh in the ring. And the whole thing with Pat McAfee autographing the football and punting it into the crowd, you wouldn't get that if Vince McMahon was still in charge. So that was pretty cool of McAfee signing the football and punting it into the crowd. It was a little foam football. But overall, match was okay between Ricochet and Corbin. And then we saw Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn was backstage, and he had to stand outside Roman Reigns' room. He ended up knocking on the door, and then SmackDown went to commercial. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Sami Zayn was still outside Reigns' room. The Usos ended up answering the door. Sami Zayn ended up asking how Paul Heyman is, to which Jimmy ended up telling Sami Zayn that Paul Heyman's at home. And Sami Zayn ended up saying that he wanted to congratulate the Tribal Chief. Jay ended up saying that it isn't a good time. And he ended up telling Sami Zayn that he'll text him later to come back. So that was basically that. So Paul Heyman, wasn't on the show tonight. And then we had Shinsuke Nakamura. He ended up coming out to the ring to face Ludwig Kaiser. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had the classic SmackDown moment of the week. It was the moment from April 27, 2000, where Stone Cold Steve Austin ended up destroying the DX Express, where he ended up dropping the beam down on top of the DX Express, exploding the bus, the DX Express bus. Just awesome moment. That moment will never get old. Love that they're doing these classic SmackDown moments of the week. Every time I see, a classic moment, it just takes me back to my childhood, the Attitude Era there. Just those moments, those classic moments will never get old. The good old days of the company, when the product was great. And then after we saw that, we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ludwig Kaiser. If Nakamura ended up winning the match, he would get a shot at Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. So pretty much basically this was a championship contenders match in disguise, but they didn't want to say that. But this was a good match. So Gunther was at ringside. The match ended up starting. We had Nakamura and Kaiser end up locking up. Kaiser ended up hitting Nakamura with a couple of elbows to the back of Nakamura's neck. Kaiser followed that up with some kicks to Nakamura's midsection in the corner. So we saw Gunther. He ended up barking orders to Kaiser from the outside. Nakamura ended up taking control. He ended up delivering an elbow to Kaiser's thigh. He then ended up hitting Kaiser with a knee to his midsection and also the double knees. Nakamura ended up hitting the double knees to Kaiser's midsection. Kaiser came back, ended up hitting Nakamura with a right hand. Kaiser then set Nakamura up on the top rope and delivered a knee to knock Nakamura down. Nakamura then delivered a knee to Kaiser's back, but Kaiser came back and ended up sending Nakamura down to the mat. So as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Kaiser was in control of the match, but Nakamura came back. He was gaining some momentum on Kaiser. He draped Kaiser over the top rope, and he ended up hitting him with a knee, and then he followed up with a baseball slide. Kaiser was looking to go for a German suplex, but Nakamura ended up sliding out of the ring. Kaiser ended up knocking Nakamura from behind, and Nakamura ended up draping Kaiser on the apron, ended up delivering a running knee. Nakamura was looking to go for the Kinshasa. Kaiser countered that, and he delivered a European uppercut to Nakamura. Kaiser ended up going for the pin, and Nakamura ended up kicking out. So Kaiser ended up dropping Nakamura down to the mat. He was looking to go for the powerbomb. Nakamura countered that into an armbar. So Kaiser ended up counting that into a pin. Nakamura ended up kicking out. And Nakamura laid out Kaiser with the Kinshasa. And there you go. Nakamura ended up winning the match. So Nakamura would get a shot at Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. And Gunther was not pleased at that. So post-match, Gunther and Nakamura end up staring each other down. So Nakamura ended up telling Gunther to come on. Was what Nakamura always does. I like when Nakamura always does that. With the come on. But overall, it was a good match between Nakamura and Kaiser. And then we saw Mackenzie Mitchell. Mackenzie Mitchell was standing with Kofi Kingston. Mackenzie Mitchell ended up asking Kofi how Xavier Woods is. Kofi ended up telling Mackenzie that Xavier Woods is good and that he's in high spirits. He ended up saying that he'll be back in no time and he won't let the Viking Raiders get him down. Kofi ended up saying that it's been a while since he's been on his own, but he will get revenge on the Viking Raiders for what they did to Xavier Woods because New Day rocks. So that was what Kofi had to say. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Sami Zayn once again knocked on Roman's dressing room door. Jimmy ended up saying that they were just about to text Sami Zayn. And he ended up telling Sami to go to the production truck to make sure everything is perfect on that end. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we had Kayla Braxton. Kayla Braxton was in the ring. She ended up introducing the SmackDown Women's Champion, Liv Morgan, to address the SummerSlam controversy in her match with Ronda. So Liv Morgan ended up coming out. Kayla Braxton ended up asking Liv Morgan what's been going on in her mind since SummerSlam. Liv Morgan ended up saying to Kayla Braxton that she's been feeling many different emotions. She ended up saying that she wanted to address the elephant in the room. And she ended up saying that the SmackDown Women's Championship means everything to her. Liv Morgan ended up saying that helped her to take 3 arm bars from Ronda. But she thought she tapped after the referee counted to 3. And the crowd there in Greenville was booing Liv Morgan. They were chanting, "You tapped out" to her. So that's not good on Liv Morgan there. If this is going to keep going into next week with the crowd just booing and chanting, "You tapped out," it's probably going to turn Liv Morgan heel. But who knows? It could be a different reaction next week wherever SmackDown is. Maybe Greenville are not Liv Morgan fans. So then we saw Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville ended up coming out. She got on the mic. She ended up saying that the fans are buying into Liv Morgan's innocent act and that she shouldn't be SmackDown Women's Champion. Sonya Deville ended up saying that she was happy to see Ronda beat Liv Morgan. And she admitted that it's a testament to how bad Adam Pearce is at his job. Sonya Deville ended up saying that she's going to win the Gauntlet match and take the SmackDown Women's Championship off Liv Morgan. So Aaliyah then ended up coming down to the ring, and we had the Gauntlet match. And this Gauntlet match was to determine who will face Liv Morgan for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Clash at the Castle. So, of course, Aaliyah versus Sonya Deville here. Aaliyah ended up sending Sonya Deville down to the mat. Liv Morgan was at ringside watching the match, watching this Gauntlet match. So Sonya Deville fired back with some elbows to Aaliyah. She followed up with a run knee. Aaliyah then rolled up Sonya Deville. Deville ended up kicking out. Sonya Deville then delivered a spine buster to Aaliyah and then locked in, of course, a chin lock. So Aaliyah ended up escaping and delivered a thrust press to Sonya Deville. She then ended up hitting a lateral press and ended up going for the pin, but Sonya Deville ended up kicking out. Sonya Deville ended up hitting Deville's Advocate to Aaliyah. She ended up going for the cover, and Aaliyah was eliminated from the Gauntlet match. And then the next one to come out was Raquel Rodriguez. Smiley Raquel comes out there smiling, running to the ring. And so Raquel got into the ring. She ended up sending Sonya Deville into the corner. Deville ended up delivering a kick to Raquel's midsection and followed up with a chop block. Raquel then delivered a side slam to Sonya Deville and sent her into the top turnbuckle. Raquel then ended up hitting the Tejana Bomb on Sonya Deville. She ended up going for the cover. Sonya Deville was eliminated from the Gauntlet match. And next one to come out was Shotzi. So Shotzi ended up hitting a tornado DDT on Raquel. We had Raquel end up delivering the fallaway slam and the spinning back elbow and a powerbomb to Shotzi. And Raquel eliminated Shotzi from the Gauntlet match. Next was Xia Li. Xia Li then came out, faced off against Raquel. So Xia Li ended up hitting Raquel with some kicks sent her down to the mat. Xia Li ended up hitting a drop kick, and then she started going after Raquel's leg. But in the end, Raquel ended up hitting the spinning back elbow splash onto Xia Li. She followed it up with the Tejana bomb. Then Raquel ended up going for the cover, and Xia Li was eliminated from the Gauntlet match. Next was Natalya. So Natalya and Raquel ended up facing off. Natalya got into the ring. She went straight to work on Raquel, ended up beating her down. Natalya then ended up attacking Raquel's knee, slammed it into the mat. Natalya then locked in a submission, but Raquel ended up hitting some right hands, ended up rolling through on Natalya. So we had Raquel end up catching Natalya, slammed her into the mat, and she ended up going for the cover, and Natalya was eliminated from the Gauntlet match. So then the final participant that Raquel ended up facing was Shayna Baszler. So Shayna Baszler ended up locking in a knee submission on Raquel. Baszler ended up stomping on Raquel's leg, sent her face first into the middle turnbuckle. Baszler then ended up hitting a knee to Raquel's face. And in the end, we had Shayna Baszler end up locking in the Karafuda clutch on Raquel. Raquel Rodriguez began to fade, and Shayna Baszler ended up pinning Raquel Rodriguez. So there you go. Shayna Baszler ended up winning the Gauntlet match. And now Shayna Baszler will get a shot at the SmackDown Women's Championship. She'll be facing Liv Morgan at Clash at the Castle. But the right woman won. Overall, the quality of the Gauntlet match was just, in my opinion. But at least the woman showcased, their, moves here in this Gauntlet match. They got time. But Shayna Baszler being the right one to win it was pretty good. Because, you've seen Ricochet end up winning earlier against Corbin. He's one of Triple H's guys. Shayna Baszler won. Triple H, is one of her favorites. So, but should be a pretty decent match, with Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan at Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. And then we went backstage, and we saw Sami Zayn knocking at Reigns' dressing room door again. He kept saying that he did what they asked him to do. And Jay ended up telling Sami that if he doesn't start pulling his weight, he'll be pulling the Bloodline shirt off real soon. So that was basically that. But all this, Sami Zayn knocking on Roman Reigns' door, and Jay ended up telling him here if he does start pulling his weight, he's going to be pulling the Bloodline shirt off. So I think this is a possibility, since that maybe WWE is turning Sami Zayn into a babyface, which, Sami has been heel for 2 years. I like Sami as a heel, but I just find Sami now just stale as a heel. I think he needs to go babyface, get a change for himself. But I sense that. I think Sami Zayn is going to be a babyface. And then we saw the Viking Raiders versus Jim Mulkey and Tommy Gibson. And this was just a squash match. The Viking Raiders end up winning. Post-match, Kofi ended up coming out of nowhere, started beating the Viking Raiders down with a kendo stick. And then as SmackDown came back from commercial, we had Kofi Kingston versus Erik, which this was a decent match here. Kofi ended up going straight after Erik with some forearms and some right hands. Erik then caught Kofi, ended up charging at him and delivered a kick, followed by some right hands. So Kofi ended up managing to hit a crossbody off the top rope onto Erik. Erik came back. He ended up planting Kofi into the mat with a spine buster. He then ended up going for the pin, and we had Kofi end up kicking out. Erik then ended up hitting a knee to the back of Kofi's head, and then he ended up going for another pin, to which Kofi ended up kicking out. Kofi ended up hitting a drop kick off the second rope, which sent Erik to the outside. Kofi then ended up hitting a trust fall over the top rope, and Ivar ended up trying to hit Kofi with the kendo stick. Kofi ended up ducking, and Erik ended up taking advantage of the match. So Kofi ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Kofi ended up winning the match. Overall, decent match. And then they ended up announcing that this Monday on Raw, we're going to be getting a tournament for the vacant Women's Tag Team Championships. And I have a sense that Sasha and Naomi are going to return, and they're going to be put in this tournament. And I think WWE is going to make Sasha and Naomi win the tournament, and they're going to be the new Women's Tag Team Champions. If it's not them, I would have to say it could be Dakota Kai and Io Sky. But I'm leaning more towards Sasha and Naomi win the titles. But that tournament's going to start this Monday on Raw. Should be a pretty good tournament, hopefully. And then we saw the Bloodline. The Tribal Chief Roman Reigns and the Usos, they end up making their way out. Jimmy ended up hitting Reigns the mic, and Reigns ended up telling Greenville, South Carolina to acknowledge him. And I know I said Greensville, but it's really Greenville, so I messed up the name of the city. You know, it's messed up my notes, but it's Greenville, not Greensville, as I pronounced it. So Reigns ended up saying a few things needed to be addressed first. He ended up saying Brock Lesnar is first up. Reigns ended up saying that he respects Lesnar, but he hates him for attacking Paul Heyman at SummerSlam. So the Tribal Chief ended up sending prayers to Paul Heyman, which he says the wise man, because Brock Lesnar tried to kill the wise man, Paul Heyman. So Drew McIntyre ended up coming out. Drew McIntyre came out, he ended up saying that he had to interrupt, because otherwise the Tribal Queef would have talked until we went off the air. So Drew McIntyre ended up saying that he wants to fight right now. So he wanted to get his hands on Reigns. And McIntyre was looking to attack Reigns in the ring. But then we had this mysterious music end up playing. And the screen end up turning black and white. We saw a graphic of a crow pop up on the screen. So we saw the return of KARRION KROSS. Yes, KARRION KROSS returned to SmackDown tonight. And he ended up attacking Drew McIntyre. Scarlett ended up standing on top of the ring. Scarlett then ended up placing the hourglass in the ring next to the Bloodline. And just KARRION KROSS ended up hitting Drew McIntyre's head into the ring steps. And pretty much that was basically how SmackDown went off the air. KARRION KROSS returning to the company, making his mark on Drew McIntyre. This was awesome. This was unexpected of KARRION KROSS to come back. And, thanks to Triple H, this was one of his guys that he built up in NXT. And already this is very good, because when KARRION KROSS was on the main roster with Vince in charge, he fucked it up. Vince fucked up KARRION KROSS. He made him come out wearing a mask, and he looked like Shredder from the Ninja Turtles. And he ended up putting suspenders on KARRION KROSS. That was Vince's vision of KARRION KROSS. And it was awful. He got released, and thanks to Triple H, he brought back KARRION KROSS along with Scarlett. When Vince didn't even bring Scarlett up when he brought up KARRION KROSS. So Triple H did it right here. We got KARRION KROSS and we got Scarlett. So bravo to Triple H on bringing KARRION KROSS back. So, and KARRION KROSS now has hair. You know, when he made his debut on the main roster and when he was in NXT, he was bald. So, but good to have seen KARRION KROSS and Scarlett tonight on SmackDown. But overall, SmackDown was a watchable show tonight. Moving on to AEW Rampage. Rampage was a good show tonight. We had Jon Moxley versus Mance Warner in a Interim AEW World Championship Eliminator match. Never seen Mance Warner in the ring before until tonight. I know he wrestled a match in MLW from what I heard. And then we saw Konosuke Takeshita versus Ryan Nemeth. You know, more Takeshita on AEW television. And, you know, Tony Khan, he needs to sign Takeshita full-time for AEW. Takeshita is just that entertaining in the ring and very good. We also saw Madison Rayne end up making her AEW debut tonight on Rampage. And she ended up taking on Leila Gray. And the main event, we had a street fight. It was Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland versus Josh Woods and Tony Nese. Overall, Rampage was a good show tonight. It was live. And I like when Rampage is live because the crowd reaction is very different and more alive than when they tape Rampage after Dynamite, because the crowd is pretty much probably tired from, you know, sitting for AEW Dark for an hour, and then Dynamite for 2 hours, and then Rampage for an hour. So by the time they tape Rampage after Dynamite, the crowd is probably just like, you know, like they want to go home. It's like it doesn't have, you know, energy when the show is taped, because, you know, a lot of the fans there, you know, they're loud, they're alive for Dynamite for the 2 hours. So, but love when, like I said, Rampage is live. It brings a different atmosphere with the crowd there, and they cheer, they make noise. So they're more alive when Rampage is live. But Rampage opened up tonight with Jon Moxley versus Mance Warner. This was a Interim AEW World Championship Eliminator match. And this was a very good match here. Mance Warner, like I said, haven't seen him in the ring before. I haven't watched a match that Mance Warner was in. But I gotta say, he was pretty good here with Moxley. And I forgot to say, the only reason why Rampage was live tonight was because they taped Battle of the Belts 3, which we're going to be seeing tomorrow night. Which, I don't know if I'm going to review it, maybe. But if not, then there will be no Monday Night Raw review this week. Because I will be at a Mets game on Monday. So, but Moxley ended up meeting Mance Warner on the entrance ramp. He tossed him into the barricade. Warner ended up delivering a chop to Moxley, tossed him into the ring, and then the match got underway. Mance Warner ended up sending Moxley into the barricade. Moxley ended up firing back with a snap suplex on the outside to Warner. So both Moxley and Warner ended up exchanging chops, and Warner ended up delivering an atomic drop on the barricade to Moxley, which, you know, Moxley, you know, he had that, you know, pained look on his face from that atomic drop. You tell that hurted him. So we have Moxley and Warner end up getting back to the ring. Warner ended up delivering several chops to Moxley. Moxley ended up firing back with some chops of his own to Warner. Moxley then ended up hitting a drop kick on Warner's leg, and then he locked in the figure 4. So Warner ended up sending Moxley to the outside, and the ref ended up doing the 10 count, started the 10 count. Moxley ended up managing to beat the 10 count and got back to the ring. Warner ended up kicking Moxley down and locked in the figure 4. Moxley ended up escaping, and Warner ended up delivering a chop block. So Warner ended up attacking Moxley's shin, and he ended up delivering a right hand to Moxley's head. Moxley ended up firing back with a couple chops, and Warner ended up hitting a spine buster to Moxley. Warner ended up going for the cover, and Moxley ended up kicking out. We had Moxley end up giving Warner the middle finger, flipped him off, and Warner ended up delivering the right hand. So Warner ended up heading to the outside. He ended up retrieving something from under the ring, which was 2 chairs. Warner ended up going to hit Moxley with the chair, but Moxley ended up hitting him with a right hand on the chair and knocked Warner to the outside. So Warner was bleeding. Moxley ended up hitting a tope suicida on Warner before he ended up delivering a lariat in the corner. So at the end of the match, Moxley ended up getting Warner in a chokehold. Warner ended up fading. So there you go. Moxley ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match with Moxley and Warner. Mance Warner here, he was very good. First match I've seen him in. And hopefully we see more of Mace Warner on AEW television. And, the wrestling here was, very good from both of these guys. And then we went backstage. And Lexi Nair was there with Ricky Starks. So QT Marshall ended up walking in. He ended up saying to Ricky Starks that Hobbs has taken him out the last 2 weeks. So he ended up saying that he can offer him protection. Starks ended up declining, ended up telling him to kiss his ass. So, babyface Ricky Starks here. So, but maybe this is set up for a feud, maybe a future feud after Starks gets done with Hobbs. Are we going to be seeing Starks versus QT Marshall? Maybe. And then we had Konosuke Takeshita versus Ryan Nemeth. Takeshita is very good. Like I said before, AEW needs to sign Takeshita full time. Tony Khan, please do it. He's that entertaining. So we had Peter Avalon out there. He accompanied Ryan Nemeth. Of course, Ryan Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's brother. And this was just a quick match here. This felt like an AEW Dark match. But Takeshita ended up going right for Nemeth with some right hands. He ended up delivering a big boot to Nemeth. Takeshita ended up going off the ropes. Peter Avalon ended up grabbing his boot to trip him. So Takeshita then ended up hitting the Blue Thunder Bomb later on Nemeth. He followed up with the jumping knee, and he ended up going for the cover. There you go. Takeshita ended up winning the match. Post-match, Peter Avalon, he ended up trying to attack Takeshita. Takeshita then ended up hitting Peter Avalon with the jumping knee. And that was basically that. Overall, quick match, easy win for Takeshita. And it felt like an AEW Dark match. Because you have Ryan Nemeth, Peter Avalon, both of those guys are AEW Dark worthy. And then we saw Lexi Nair. She was there with Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. They ended up saying that they aren't in the top rankings, so something needs to change. They ended up deciding that they're going after the Trios Championships. And out of nowhere, we see Danhausen end up appearing. Pretty much that was basically that. Best Friends and Orange Cassidy, they want to go after the Trios Championships. That's pretty good. And then we had Madison Rayne versus Leila Grey. Leila Grey came out along with Stokely Hathaway. This was Madison Rayne's AEW debut. And this was a solid women's match here. Both Rayne and Grey end up locking up. Rayne ended up delivering a backslide to Leila Grey. Grey ended up kicking out. And Madison Rayne ended up delivering an arm drag. Grey ended up sending Rayne outside. And she delivered a chop, followed by a suplex. Grey ended up delivering a kick to Madison Rayne's chest. Grey ended up sending Rayne into the barricade. So we saw Rayne end up kicking out as Grey ended up delivering a sit-out side slam. So Rayne and Grey ended up exchanging forearms. Rayne ended up hitting a sliding lariat, followed by the cross Rayne on Leila Grey. So Madison Rayne ended up going for the cover and wins the match. So Madison Rayne, she was pretty good here. Never seen her wrestle before, but though she was pretty good here against Leila Grey. Post-match, Jade Cargill ended up coming down to the ring. She had a mic in hand. She ended up saying that she should have handled her on her own. She ended up saying that she's big on charity and has an open challenge at Quake at the Lake. Cargill ended up saying that she would love for Madison Rayne to be her opponent. She ended up telling Madison Rayne to take a couple of days off. So Kiera Hogan ended up trying to attack Madison Rayne from behind, but Rayne ended up hitting Kiera Hogan with the cross Rayne, and that was basically that. But overall, solid women's match between Madison Rayne and Leila Grey for Madison Rayne's AEW debut. And then we had the main event. We had Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee versus Tony Nese and Josh Woods in a street fight. Before the match, we had Mark Henry end up interviewing Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee, Tony Nese, and Josh Woods. So Tony Nese and Josh Woods, they end up coming out alongside Mark Sterling. And this was a good match here, the street fight. Match started with Swerve and Josh Woods brawling on the outside. Keith Lee ended up tossing Tony Nese into the barricade. And Josh Woods ended up doing the same to Swerve, tossing Swerve into the barricade. And Woods and Lee ended up coming face to face. Woods ended up trying to hit Keith Lee with some forearms. And Keith Lee ended up selling it, ended up pinning him with a double chop. Swerve ended up sending Tony Nese to a chair with a drop toe hold. We saw Tony Nese end up getting up. He ended up throwing protein powder in Keith Lee's face. So Swerve ended up sending Tony Nese into the ring steps, and he pulled out a toolbox. He ended up throwing it at Tony Nese's head, and Josh Woods ended up taking down Swerve from behind. Swerve ended up sending Woods into the ring steps as Tony Nese hit Keith Lee in the head with the toolbox. Josh Woods ended up sending Swerve into the ring steps. Tony Nese ended up throwing a trash can into the ring, and he threw another one. He ended up sending one up into the corner of the ring. So Josh Woods ended up assaulting Keith Lee with a garbage can of his own on the outside. Swerve ended up going face first into the trash can, and Tony Nese ended up suplexing him on the lid. So we saw a table was set up on the outside. Tony Nese was looking to send Swerve on the table. Swerve ended up preventing that as Josh Woods ended up tossing Keith Lee into the ring. We saw later on Mark Sterling ended up tossing a table into the ring. Tony Nese set up the table. Swerve ended up hitting Tony Nese with a knee to his jaw. Sterling ended up hitting Swerve with a wrench in the back of his head. So later on, Sterling ended up climbing up to the top rope. Keith Lee ended up grabbing his boot and sent Mark Sterling straight through the table. Josh Woods was looking to deliver a German suplex to Keith Lee through the table on the outside, but Keith Lee ended up holding onto the ropes. Tony Nese then delivered a super kick allowing Josh Woods to deliver the German suplex through the table. Swerve then ended up hitting the Swerve Stomp to Tony Nese. He ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Swerve and Keith Lee ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a good main event. Very entertaining street fight. And Rampage was a good show tonight. Glad that it was live and the crowd had a lot of energy for the hour of the show. But good show it was. But anyways, that's it for my review of SmackDown and AEW Rampage. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and probably I will see you all tomorrow night for Battle of the Belts 3, maybe. If not, stay tuned for the next video from me. So, see you all later.